If you want to start learning pixel art, start small. This is very common advice to start with a smaller canvas and work your way up. I did not follow this advice, but hey, better late than never. And in this video, I'm going to be chatting about how I've been practicing this and the important lessons that I've learned. So, grab a tea, maybe a snack, and let's jump into it. Hello, my name is Jade, and I like to paint with pixels. So, my goal for this exercise was to create some badges and emotes for not only my Twitch stream, but also to start a little digital shop for myself, selling pre-made streaming assets. A lot of what I've been drawing recently is on a much bigger canvas where I can get a lot of detail in, and since I've been wanting to update my stream setup for a while now, this felt like a good place to start. Before I dove straight into drawing assets for my streams, I did a bit of practice drawing smaller badges, each at the same canvas size as sub-badges, which is 18 by 18 pixels. I think this is the smallest canvas that I've drawn in, even smaller than what I drew in this challenge video drawing the same portrait at different sizes. The app that I'm using is called Pixsquare, which is on the iPad, and a really nice feature about this is that you can customize the checkered grid size so that when I'm drawing badges, each of the squares can be 18 by 18 pixels, and when I'm practicing drawing emotes, the squares can be 28 by 28 pixels. This allows me to draw a bunch of different assets on the same page without having to make my own grid and make sure that I'm sticking to the correct canvas size. I just have to stay in the squares. There is a bit of an adjustment when working with such a tiny canvas. Each pixel is much more important because it has to tell you a lot more about the image, which quickly led me to realize that I needed to keep the designs and subject matter super simple. A lot of times I found that symmetrical designs work quite well for this size, at least for starting out. Since I was making badges, I tried to make badge sets with different themes. Something I found that helped me create consistent designs is to create a base from which I could alter it for the rest of the set. Some alterations can be quite simple by just changing the colors, and to help with making each badge feel more cohesive, I try to reuse colors from my palette. So, the shadows from one badge, like this orange on a yellow bow, can be the base color for a different badge. For something a little more complex, like my characters, I try to make sure that they were all based off of the same face shape and facial features. So I could start off with that, and then adjust the outer edge and the colors of the design to fit for each character. I was aiming for 6 badges per set, since that was the default amount that you get when you become affiliate on Twitch. But because I've been streaming for a while now, I had room for some more. So I added these cute little hats to some of them for the later sub badges, and I felt like I had to highlight them in the video because look at them, they're so cute! Another big point that I learned is to make sure you're zooming out to view your work. This is good practice in any artwork, but especially here, as this is how they'll be seen in chat, so you want to make sure that the key parts of your asset are clear even when they're really small. To view your work like this, you can either zoom in and out of the canvas while you're working, or you can also use a preview window that's common in a lot of drawing software and keep that view zoomed out. That way, you get the best of both. One set that I really wanted to make since it's around Valentine's Day was a set of roses in different colors. But getting that initial rose shape down was really difficult. I tried to draw the outline of the petals a couple of times, but I really struggled since there was so much detail in such a condensed space, especially around the center of the flower. For my next attempt, after almost giving up on the idea, I tried a different approach. I started with drawing the silhouette of the flower, and then used a lighter color to block out the general shape of the petals, which helped a ton with getting the initial shape down. I mentioned before how this technique is quite useful in pixel art for also drawing portraits, so if you're having trouble with a particular subject, try blocking out the silhouette, which will look a little weird on its own, but stick with it. Add in the highlights to block out the bigger shapes, and then add in the shadows to add detail in between them. What I found that I'd like to do is keep the badges even if they don't quite work out, to see the progression after a couple of attempts. You never know. You might go from what looks like a lump of raw bread dough into a lovely set of flowers, and it's quite nice to see that progress. If you're a streamer who's on the lookout for new badges, there's a link for my Kofi shop in the description. For the emotes, I used a lot of what I learned from drawing sub-badges, but also a couple new things, since these were more focused on characters and a particular action that they're doing. Something I found was quite useful was to identify what is the focal point of this emote. Where is it important to get the most details in? If it's a character, the majority of the pixels will be used on the face and capturing the expression. I felt like it was a little puzzle to figure out the best pose for each of these emotes. I found it quite tricky to fit my character into the canvas, especially as emotes, without having to crop it in some way. But actually, this can help with utilizing as much space as possible, since there's not a lot to work with as it is. Even though emotes are slightly larger than badges at 28 by 28 pixels, the space can fill up pretty quickly. There's a balance between not cropping too much where your character isn't recognizable, and not cropping enough so that it leaves a lot of unused space around the edge of the canvas, and less pixels to work on for your actual character. In this example here, with my laughing emote, I found with my bear character that I could crop one side and still keep the ear visible on the other so that she's still recognizable as a bear, but I have enough room for both the pose and the laugh lines, and a bit of space to keep them separate as well. I found that contrast was very important in drawing at a smaller scale, as it was easy to let some of the details blend in together because the colours were too similar in value. I found a nice way to be able to quickly check them using this method. Hi, hello, editing me again. Just wanted to note, I've since found this article that says that this isn't the most accurate test, but since the alternative uses something that I've only seen in Photoshop, this method will do for quick checks. Alright, back to the video. What I did was create a new layer on top of your work, fill the whole layer with black, and then apply a saturation blend mode to that layer. For Picsquare, you'll find that the blend modes appear on the right if you double tap on the layer. And now, you can toggle this layer on and off to quickly check the values of all the colours underneath this layer. This helps you identify if two colours are really close in value so that you can make sure that different elements are contrasting enough from each other. Outlines can also help with this if the colour of the lines are a high contrast to what they're trying to separate, but with such limited space, sometimes an outline can take up too much room, so making sure that the base colour of the asset that you're trying to separate has a high enough contrast instead can do a similar job without taking up more space. After a few more adjustments and some little animations, these are the final results. I understand why they say starting small is good for beginners. It really helps you identify what are the most important elements that you want to keep in focus and simplify the design to let those aspects shine. It's a very useful skill to have for a ton of other use cases as well. Not only can they be used as stream assets, but they could be used as assets for games, desktop icons, even stickers if you're into digital planning, or you can print them out for physical journals. What's nice is that it also lets you practice quite a few of the fundamentals as well. Good values, shapes, and colours can go a really long way in making your assets stand out. I hope you enjoyed this video! If you're learning about other art fundamentals like colour theory, check out this video here, where we learn about different colour combinations and patterns. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care out there. Goodbye!